Hello, everybody that is tuning in to the Digital Writers Festival. We bring you a series of performances today called Songs and Stories of Home. And we're going to be exploring what that looks like and begin by acknowledging that I'm currently speaking from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, acknowledge elders past, present and emerging, and that sovereignty of this land was never ceded, and that every person in the context of Australia has a role and responsibility in understanding what that means for them, and speaking that understanding into the spaces where they have access to listening ears. We have an amazing lineup of artists today that are going to be exploring what home looks like to them, means to them, has changed for them over time. There's an awesome quote here by Warsan Shire. At the end of the day, it isn't where I came from. Maybe home is somewhere I'm going and never have been before. So I think how we're going to be looking at home will be from each artist's perspective and is grounded in this idea that each person lives that and experiences that depending on their experience as is life. I'm going to begin by doing a piece, and then I'm going to introduce each artist so that we know who we have. We've got Panya Banjoko, we've got Yeo, Simona, Castricum, Paul, Fanas, Ziggy Rama. This piece doesn't have a name, as most of my work doesn't, and it's something that I have been writing over a couple of days, and it speaks to how little I know now of what home means to me. Talking about love out loud is quite a feeling. Like if ever a movement of a muscle could conjure such healing, and all parts in this communication plays a role you mustn't ignore. What struck the thought? Who sat and listened? Could you see the ground? Where were your feet? Were the sounds alive? Did your breathing slow? Which colors spoke? Why did you stop? Did you know that you could feel comforted by the very same vehicle that drove you lonely? It's language. This race car for me is language. You grab it with one hand and then the other comes and takes it. So are we racing? Then away from captors, silence, not knowing. What would happen if we stopped and said out loud, painted it through a megaphone, the words, the pictures, the truth, that it'll never be the same? Could we speak of love out loud? Not in search, but in reverence of what it means to be doing this here thing, sitting in this here warmth after countless pullings, and caught up in the ushering directions. Severing connection has always been a countless conduct for me, all in search of home, all in beds of fear. I have never known so little about home, and I have lived in so many versions of it. I say versions because perception is quite a puzzle, because feelings, they tell the truth and they never stay the same. No matter the dwindling in things I know for sure, I know talking about love out loud is quite a feeling. Like if ever a movement of a muscle could conjure such healing, and or part in this communication plays a role you mustn't ignore. What struck the thought? Who sat and listened? Could you see the grounds? Where were your feet? Were the sounds alive? Did your breathing slow? Which colors spoke? Why did you stop? Thank you. I am very curious at this moment as to how I am to know if people are tuning in with comments. Okay, I found it. We're good. We're cool. So you can type in questions and comments throughout this, directed at anyone's piece, and we'll hopefully get them to address you. And is there a way to know who's tuning in? No, there isn't. That's cool. So our next performer is Panya Banjoko, who is joining us from the UK, and it's quite early for her, so we're really, really lucky to have her with us. Panya Banjoko is a UK-based poet, has performed at the 2012 Olympic Games and more recently as part of the Inspire Poetry Festival. Her poem, One of a Kind, was commended in the Writers' East Midlands Aurora competition in 2017. She has performed on Central TV for a BBC documentary about the Olympian Jamie Bulch, and in the crowdsourced award-winning film Brit I Am, directed by comedian Andy Osho. She has toured internationally, coordinates a Writers and Artists Network, and is patron for Nottingham UNESCO City of Literature. Her debut collection of poetry is set for publication in June 2018. Welcome, Panya. That's so much amazing things to have done before even releasing your first set of poetry. Take it away.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning from here. What can I say? The poem I'm going to do is called They and Them, and then I'll talk about it afterwards. They had big houses in the city. Unlike them, who lived in ramshackle patches on estates. They ate saffron fish with jeweled rice. It was normal for them to go hungry. When them started saying they were cousins, seeds of the earth, they should share. They hurled punches, smashed bottles on heads, beat them raw. Sometimes, when they battered them, it made them feel like putting an exit bag over their heads. They made them build prisons and museums, poached objects, made them with clamped mouths fill the galleries. One day, it was too much for them. And with oiled throats, voices the color of mandarin fish could be heard across the broken roads. And when the sounds became shapes, they ordered them to be quiet. And when the shapes became the butts of bayonets, they ordered them to stop. Butts became handles. They grew frantic, feared bayonets with cutting edge, so they made up stories. Wicked stories about them stealing children and eating their toes. And when that wasn't enough, they said that the tails at the back of them would strangle women. But the women liked the tails of them. They grew angry, threw them all into prison and released the wolves, cut out the wombs of the women, salted the insides, and fed it to the pack. That was the last that they heard of them. They were content picking their teeth. They didn't see. Out of the ruins of a doorless haunt, crawling, cockroach-like, on two bent, bloody legs, was one of them. Yeah, one of them. Thank you. I see some silent applause there. So I don't know if you want me to say anything about that or not. I was saying earlier that I am the second generation of African Caribbeans to be born here in England, and the transition has not been easy. Second generation here, first generation actually born in England. So to some extent, I am a British citizen, something my parents were not. But like I say, the transition has not been easy, in fact, very difficult. And so when I do write about home, it always has a dystopian feel, because I feel that I've not quite found my home. So that's me.
Thank you so much for sharing, Tanya. That was yeah, really stirring piece. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up we have Yo. 2017 saw the release of Yo's full-length album Desire Path, accompanied by an 11-day Australian tour. 2016 saw the release of Yo's album Ganbaru, if I pronounced that right, which featured his breakthrough single Icarus. Yo has supported the likes of Helios and Hearts and festival showcases such as New Year's Eve on the Hill, Big Pineapple Music Festival, and Oz Asia Festival, with Splendor in the Grass and Beyond the Valley witnessing special appearances from Yo and her Matrood performing their ARIA #1 collaboration, Searchlight. In addition to his solo projects, Yo also plays the role of music director and band member for Emma Louise and Charles. Hello, Yo.
Hi. Thank you so much. I'm gonna play a song from an older album called At Your Own Pace, and the album was actually called Home, so it's very that a song from it. And I might talk about it a little bit before I start. Story that fades in and out of different scenes of, because, and we were talking about this before we were live, like concept of home, particularly for people like me. I was born here, but I look different to the majority of people who live in Australia. It's a fluid thing, and you don't really know where you belong, but that's how I define home, where you belong. And then so by that definition, it's the people you're with and the people you're surrounded with. And you can find these people in several different places, and that's what kind of this song represents for me. Yeah, so I'll start. 15 miles till we roll into Georgia. The hole in my pocket says I can't afford you. There's never enough days till we go our separate ways, and there's nothing there to break my fall. There you stand, your bags around and smiling. Station calls, your face is bright and shining. Before you get on that train, take my jacket if it rains, and call me when you reach LA. You said at your own pace, and in your own time. Guess where I'll be right behind. If you ever fall or have no place to go on at all, just come on home. You never have to call. Eat so loud that they'll always excuse you. From Kitchen Town down to Asakusa, I'm on my bicycle again to find a satchel in the rain. I'll be back about 8:35. You said that you're home time. Guess where I'll be right behind. have no place to go on at all. Just come on home. You never have to call. Sorry if I drive like I've jumped prison. I swear that love is the only reason. Don't just get out and leave. I'd rather you tug on my sleeve and whisper me to slow the hell down. You never fail to lend an ear to help me. I know my habits don't always seem healthy, but I'm only getting older. So lay your head on my shoulder and whisper me to slow the hell down. And you said at your own pace and in your own time. Guess where you'll be right behind. If you ever fall or have no place to go on at all, just come on home. You never have to call. Just come on home. You never have to call. Just come on home. You never have to call. Thanks.
Thank you. It was beautiful. No, I love the last line. Come on, home, you never have to call. It makes me think of the unconditional nature. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Next up, we have Simona Castricum. Simona Castricum's music and architecture practice explores borderline spaces between belonging, euphoria, desolation, and aggression tied together by narrative, conformity, queerty, gender, and relation. He is a PhD in architecture at the University of Melbourne, Design and on radio station. Simona has written for The Guardian, Vice, ID, and Archer. Is academically published in Routledge's Architecture and Culture, The Lifted Brow, and RM Architecture's Design monograph, Mongrel Rapture. Her short memoirs appeared in From the Heart, Women of Letters, and Doing It, Women Tell the Truth and About Great Sex. Simona, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Let's see how this goes. Again, I'd like to acknowledge that I'll be doing this performance from the studio that I work, which is on Wurundjeri land of the Kulin Nation, and pay respects to elders past, present, and future, and recognise that this is stolen land and that I benefit from colonialism. Just as a prelude to what I want to sing about today is, I guess, a lot of my music is about utopias and dystopias, and the cities and the communities about that kind of consume me a lot. And I think something that's been echoed in some other things that we've heard is, when we kind of lose home and we constantly have to rebuild it. So this idea of, home is something that, losing it, being attacked in it, abandoned by it and excluded from it, only to have to find it all over again. It's also about hope and opportunity and imagining and rebuilding. But nothing is safe, and nor is it permanent. Home is about mitigating risk. I wish it wasn't that way. And one day I'll write a song that celebrates that I belong somewhere. So this narrative is sadly nothing new, and it's something that I explore in my work. So for tonight, yeah, I have a sad song about losing community and losing your home when you thought that you had it. I took my risks, I made my chances. I climbed the trees to fall from the branches. I take the blame when things went wrong, but I didn't do it, and you knew that all along. But I won't take what has never been mine. And I can't afford to lose everything all the time. But I'm left with nothing, and I deserve better. I've lost all hope in anything to deliver. You think I'm bored, sad and blue. I'm so crazy, miserable, that's true. I don't know how to get out of this place. But I never asked for all this shit on my face. How do you connect with all the fucked up people? When does hard work become unreasonable? How do I trust anyone to look out for me? When no one even asks me to the fucking party. I don't go to things that I'm not invited to. But I still can't leave love that's unrequited. But it's better than nothing, it's better than death. It's the only thing that I'm feeling with every last breath. I set behavior that's so cruel, and I sit at my home to smoke and cry and drool. When I come back out, I have a choice. But then you beat me up when I find my voice. When so many things take such a bad turn, It must be me, it's what I deserve. Everything's going from bad to worse. But it wasn't me, and this is not what I deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Simona.
Thank you, Simona.
Such an honest expression. Sorry, guys. All right. Also, next up we have Paul Fanos. Paul Fanos is a poet and political activist from Western Sydney, an Egyptian-born immigrant. Paul picked up his pen at age 14 and hasn't put it down since.
Cool.
At age 19, he is a well-loved member of Sydney's spoken word scene and has been featured at the Parramatta Poetry Slam, the Bankstown Poetry Slam, as well as at schools, rallies and conferences statewide. In 2016, Paul competed in the Poetry Olympics at the Art Gallery of New South Wales and spoke at the City of Sydney's Young Leadership Conference. 2017 has seen Paul published in the Resurrection Anthology and perform at the Parliament House of Australia. Hello, Paul.
Hello. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right, we're sweet. So initially, I didn't really know how to approach the topic of home, only because I'm an immigrant. So my family immigrated to Australia when I was 3 years old. I was born in Egypt. I'm originally Egyptian, and so throughout my whole life, it's kind of been like a what country do you pledge your allegiance to? Which one do you call home? But lately, I've come to realize that home isn't so much a place as it is a space, and that home is a feeling, a sensation, and that's what this poem is about. So I'm just going to jump right into it. They say home is where the heart is. You say home is home regardless. You say home is cold and heartless. I say home ain't always comfy beds. I say home is where you lay your head and trust the dark in peace and calm. No greater home than a mother's arms or a lover's palms or a friend's shoulder who don't tell you to move over, who sits still and silent and lets you cherish the silence. I am Bola, Meher, Naguib, Wahba, Fanous, literary descendant of Naguib Mahfouz, who wrote that home is not where you were born, it is where all your attempts to escape cease. And so, how can we separate home from peace? I have lived in 2 countries, 9 houses, but I'm talking about home. I'm not talking about walls, halls, and windows. Instead, I will talk about Mama, whose womb was my first home, safe space, and growing place in 98. Mama was a young Nefertiti, twin pharaohs on the way too young to know the definition of minority. Mama persevered, turned 2 sinners into 2 winners, and made 1,000,000 brilliant dinners. Slaved away in a childcare, then went home to care for her own. Mama made me believe in magic, and let me tell you about Baba, a man who worked his fingers to the bone just to give his sons a home in a place where his degree didn't count. He said accountant, they said cleaner, and boy did he clean so his boys could dream. At my age, my dad could bend it like Beckham, knock, knock, who's there? Oppression, he didn't make the team. Because amongst the Nile's reeds, Coptic kids don't get to breathe. We live here now. But Sydney's air doesn't smell like bread. And yeah, there's the Opera House, but it ain't no Sphinx. And I swear, the sun shines just that little bit brighter in Cairo. They say home is where the heart is. But what good is a heart amongst the pyramids if my body is so distant? They say there's no place like home. but I wouldn't know. For immigration is simply cultural dislocation. I ain't hating on this location, I've embraced it. Tutankhamun into Yoda in Mount Druitt, how we do it, love the location, hate the alienation, love this nation, hate one nation. Pauline pushing segregation, Paula pushing education. Please understand my generation. Ain't no place on this broken dome that we can call our own. Streets of Cairo, I'm a stranger. Streets of Sydney, I'm a danger. No place to rest my head like Jesus Christ. Where is that manger? Why the hatred? Why the spite? Caramel and collateral might sound the same, but they don't look alike. Harder to ignore the truth now that the brown boy got himself a mic. Watch those colonizer eyes, you're looking at me like the Spanish. I guess Montaigne was right, I am the fucking noble savage. Let me be, just let me be. Give me a place where I can be a king, a god, a ten, a baller in the Coptic diaspora. Call me baller. If you can't pronounce my name, don't try to tell my fucking story. I'm angry and I'm tired of being angry. I'm done fighting, I won't resist. Just give my brothers and I a place to exist. And I know it might be tricky, but on God, I won't be picky. Because home ain't always comfy beds. Home is where you lay your head. Home and trust the dark in peace and calm. No home greater than a mother's arms or a lover's palms or a friend's shoulder who don't tell you to move over, who sits still and silent and lets you cherish the silence. Home is where everything is safe and nothing is a gun, so let's build one. You rest in me and I in thy eyes, for home is no earth. Home transcends dirt and flags and boats and seas and me and you. Home is bigger than a bed. Home is where you rest your head, and so home can be the creases of a page. Home can be upon this very stage, just not the dirt it sits on. We must come to realize that home is not so much a place as it is a space. And if you're homeless, just know that I've been roaming. I've been alone, and my brother's shoulder bones are the closest thing to home I've ever known. And I'll be yours if you'll be mine, for I've come to see that home is not the Union Jack and it's not the Arab Eagle. Home is gentle, never lethal. Home is no nation, no land, no people. Home is just a pure white flag. So let us travel. Take my hand like Sistine Chapel, we'll be fine. Home is no crime. I know you're lost, but now it's time. So take my hand and let's fly. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. That was yeah, stunning. Last but not least, we have Ziggy Ramo joining us from Home Away from Home. Over the last year, 22-year-old Perth-based hip-hop artist Ziggy Ramo has risen from emerging to established with his insightful, emotional, and arrested debut EP Black Thoughts, quickly followed by the powerful single Blackface, with a style that owes itself more to the golden era of hip-hop than the glossy, overproduced, auto-tuned rap gods of today. Ziggy's scathing flow, effortlessly combined with a politically charged focus, puts him in a league of his own. Hey, Ziggy.
Hello. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thank you to everyone for sharing your work. It's pretty horrible that I have to go last and try and follow everyone up, but I'll do my best. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, as I think reiterated, like I'm currently not in Australia, but I also would like to take a moment to acknowledge the Indigenous people of Los Angeles, because colonization has affected and those forces continue to impact people on a daily basis. It's not in the past, it's very much present, and I think it's important to take a moment and understand what that means for each of us as an individual. Yeah, so I'm gonna do a poem, I guess, which is just kind of my perspective of what's happened in my home and my experiences, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, and all of that light stuff. But yeah, so yeah, without further ado. And we're told that we're secondary. But in our home, we survived a genocide. We're legendary. See, I won't ever hang my head in shame, even though in my own home, they stole my culture and they changed my name. But Black history won't ever be in vain, because when they told us to fold, we stood straight. And I will never hesitate to tell my own home to go and get their facts straight. They pushed us to breaking, don't understand why we get angry. For the first time in your life, trying to understand me. Self-determination, which they take for granted, was stolen from my very own home. Now, how's that for an anthem? Because you were young and you were free, but we are locked up young and left for dead in custody. And even if we beat a system that's set to fail, we will never escape the fairy tale that was portrayed by the media since Cook first set sail. I'm nothing but a savage. They want me to break a cycle and carry my baggage. They like me better if I shut my mouth and kick a ball. They like me better if I was a bit more thankful. They like me better if I didn't know the truth, but I refuse to lose another Black youth to a nation that doesn't know the first thing about their own population. I'm just saying. Than the most widest Aborigine. So if I get discrimination, what about that good for nothing bum on the street asking for change so maybe he could eat? No good alcoholic, what the hell's he doing free? But no single change was given, it was taken. Black is beautiful, I don't ever mistake it. And I don't even care what a racist is saying. We the history, we the future, we deserve celebration. And in my own home, your kids might hate me. But how will their kids feel? And if you don't play me, maybe their kids will. Our backs against the walls, but we have hope still. See, if my home doesn't see change, maybe their home will. That's all the drive I need to keep me satisfied. That's all I need to help me sleep at night. And for the meantime, I just keep writing. I'm freedom fighting, reciting the poems that I'm typing. I'm a young Black educated man, so enlightened. I'm tired of the lies when the truth's so enticing. And I have hope that the youth want the truth, the facts. On my bullets, I load a clip and I shoot. But goddamn, it's heavy sometimes. If I didn't say I lost my mind, I find at times that I lose my shine. I'm crippled at the spine from bending backwards all the time. I'm inspired by the fire. I'm home by the freedom riders. Rest in peace, young Elijah. He was taken too soon. He should have seen many moons. Taken too soon. I really couldn't believe the news. I'm yelling, rest in peace, Miss Jew. I couldn't believe what police did to you. And I won't let it happen again. Parents should never have to bury their children. This has to end. Thank you.
Thank you, Ziggy. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you to all the artists. If you go on the Digital Writers website, you can find all of the artist bios and access to their work on there. Just love everybody. Stay safe.